Water advisory remains in effect for Venetian Isles. A water main break caused pressure there to drop, and right now high water is preventing a repair to the break. Until further notice, people in Venetian Isles should not drink, make ice, or brush teeth with the water there unless you boil it. People who are immune compromised should not wash their hands, shower, or even bathe in the water. Right now, more coverage of the aftermath of Tropical Storm Cindy on WDSU app. There you can get an updated list of closures as well as other updates from parish officials.
I don't know if I would have pulled up and saw him, I would have did him something. But if I was saw him in my house, I would have did him in.
New at 10, a man says he stopped a would-be burglar from breaking into his home. It happened off Pratt Drive in Gentilly.
WDSU reporter Tammy Eswick spoke to that man. And Tammy, what is the latest now?
Yeah, that man blocked that thief by using an app on his phone.
He was scoping out the place, you know. I guess dumb criminals can't see cameras.
This is former Harlem Globetrotter turned fitness trainer Elijah Hobley.
This camera right here caught him.
He's talking about an incident just this week where he stopped a suspected burglar from breaking into his Gentilly home. This is surveillance video of that incident. You can see the man walk up to the front door and bend down as if he's looking for something. Then, through his phone app, Hobley took control.
If you see the video, I'm like,
hey, what's up?
He takes off running.
That moment caught on one of Hobley's many security cameras.
So as I look back, rewinding my cameras back, I noticed he had went to my neighbor house across the street first. Then he went to my next neighbor house second.
Hobley then sent the video to his neighbors.
He had like 40 people responding to me after I sent that whole video out to him. Oh, Elijah, this guy broke into my house.
One neighbor even sent him a picture of a guy who tried to break into their house. They think it's the same man. The incident left Hobley's family a little unnerved.
A little spooky. Everybody was nervous last night.
But they think Hobley's a hero because of his quick thinking and security app.
That's why I have Ring. I have all these cameras around just to protect my family and myself.
Hobley says the funniest part of the video is when the crook makes a fast break out of his front yard to get away. He's hoping tonight that someone recognizes this man and turns him in. Back to you guys.
All right, Tammy, thank you. And police arrested a man after they say he pointed an assault rifle at an NOPD officer. That incident forced the SWAT team to block off an apartment complex in New Orleans East today. Police say the officer was responding to a medical call at Lakewood East Apartments. Investigators say a man pointed his weapon at the officer, and that prompted the officer to open fire. Detectives say the suspect ran off and barricaded himself in an apartment with 3 other people. Police say the suspect eventually surrendered. No one was hurt. Police booked the man as John Doe because he refused to give his real name. Police are working to identify him through fingerprints. The 2 women involved were questioned and later released. Republican Senate leaders revealed their health care plan today.
And tonight it's already coming under fire, even from members of their own party. WDSU anchor Sean Kreisman has a breakdown of what is in this bill. Sean?
Yeah, Scott Sulla, the bill, 142 pages, much of it changing parts of Obamacare, but not a full repeal. And it appears that could be enough to sink this bill. Senate Republicans unveiling their secretly written health care plan. So the changes gradually deepening cuts to Medicaid, repeals for individual and employer mandates. And so what does it keep? Well, coverage for pre-existing conditions. States cannot opt out. Kids can remain on their parents' insurance plan until the age of 26. The plan would also give tax credits based on income, but with 4 GOP senators saying they oppose the bill, it may already be doomed.
We're afraid that when we read the bill, that it actually looks like a reiteration or a keeping of Obamacare.
It's just as bad, if not worse. The cuts to Medicaid are deeper, but if you start talking about lifetime caps, if you start talking about pre-existing conditions and things of that nature, it does allow states to start implementing those things that were harmful all over again.
New Orleans Mayor Mitch Landrieu releasing this statement to us about his thoughts on the proposed health care bill, Justin, saying in part, in Louisiana, the bill would kill the expansion of Medicaid that has brought health care to more than 425,000 residents, with 51,000 of those people living right here in New Orleans. The proposed bill would take Louisiana back to the days when an ear infection meant a mother loses her job because she waited hours in an emergency room with her sick child. Adults with aging parents will again have sleepless nights wondering how they will afford afford a good nursing home that provides quality care. America cannot be strong if she is not healthy, end quote. So still unknown just how much this plan would cost and how many people would be insured. The nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office is evaluating that right now. Those numbers set to come out early next week, but time is ticking. Republican leaders want this passed before July 4th. So,
all right, Sean, thank you. Now turning to sports in the annual NBA draft, which was held this evening in Brooklyn.
The Pelicans had 2 picks tonight, none in the first round. The team's first round pick went to Sacramento to complete that blockbuster DeMarcus Cousins trade last winter. For more on the new players and how they'll fit in with Cousins and fellow star Anthony Davis, here's sports anchor Fletcher Mackel.
That's right, Scott. Before the draft even started, New Orleans was the big winner, landing Boogie Cousins, a 3-time NBA All-Star, for Buddy Hield and the 10th overall pick in tonight's draft. It's still something that has NBA analysts saying the Pelicans fleece the Sacramento Kings. That said, Cousins and Anthony Davis need more help, so team general manager Dell Demps just added Frank Jackson, and the team still has one more pick to make tonight. Jackson comes over via a trade. The Pelicans had 2 second-round draft picks, number 40 and number 52, but just moments ago, they traded the 40th overall pick in cash to move up 9 spots to number 31, and they select Frank Jackson, a combo guard, only 19 years old, out of Duke University. He left Duke after his freshman year, where he averaged 10 points per game. Right now, let's take a live look at the Pelicans facility on Airline Drive. Dell Demps will come out and answer questions about Frank Jackson and whichever player the Pelicans select at number 52 as soon as the draft ends. If the draft ends during this newscast, we will, of course, listen in and hear what Dell Demps has to say.
So we're going to hear him talk all about Frank Jackson.
That's true. And maybe the rest of his team. Free agency is going to be important for the Pelicans. Will Drew Holiday be back? Again, this is a veteran team, so it'll be interesting to see how a young 19-year-old player fits in.
Yeah, probably doesn't make the roster.
He may make the roster.
Think?
Yeah, I think so. This is a good player, a guy that had first-round potential, so we'll see how he works out here in New Orleans. He's a good shooter, and everybody in the NBA now needs shooting.
All right. Thank you, Fletcher. Still to come, a pair of Bucks. Not Milwaukee Bucks. We're off the NBA. A pair of these Bucks duke it out in Tennessee. We'll show you more of this amazing video.
Plus, some students will be paying higher fees next semester. We'll tell you by how much and why.
And Cynthia is still causing some strong winds in our area. When that wind will decrease, coming up.
President Trump has kept Washington guessing for more than a month on whether or not there are recordings of his conversations with James Comey.
Today he came clean. Scott McLean has the latest chapter of the saga from Washington.
Are there tapes, sir?
Oh, you're going to be very disappointed when you hear the answer.
Tapes or no tapes? That's the question raised by President Donald Trump more than a month ago, when he tweeted, "James Comey better hope that there are no tapes of our conversations before he starts leaking to the press." The tweet was about the FBI director whom Trump had just fired. Comey testified under oath that Trump told him he hoped he could let go of the Michael Flynn investigation, something Trump denies. Trump's tweet raised a number of questions, and until now, the White House never clearly answered if the private Oval Office encounter was taped.
The president has nothing further to add on that. When he's ready to make that announcement, we'll let you know.
Comey himself said tapes would confirm his version of events.
Look, I've seen the tweet about tapes. Lordy, I hope there are tapes.
But today, Trump tweeted in part, "I have no idea whether there are tapes or recordings of my conversations with James Comey, but I did not make and do not have any such recordings." Republicans hope Trump has learned a lesson.
I think he'll learn that his words matter.
It definitely consumes all the oxygen and distracts everybody from the priorities, but I'd like to be able to remain more clear on what we have and what we don't have, and let's move on.
But the top Democrat on the House Intel Committee, Adam Schiff, is not quite ready to move on.
The president hasn't explained why, if there were never tapes, why he made that suggestion to begin with. Was he trying to intimidate James Comey?
Schiff has asked the White House to confirm by the end of the week that no one made tapes. In Washington, I'm Scott McLean.
New at 10 now, LSU is expected to reap the benefits of Louisiana's first medical marijuana production deal. The University Agriculture Center will get at least $3.4 million in exchange for the permission to grow marijuana. Contractors and LSU president began working out the final details of the contract today. And student fees at LSU's main campus will increase $270 per semester starting next year. LSU's governing board said the extra money will go towards pay raises. Earlier this week, lawmakers agreed to keep a law that allows Louisiana colleges and universities to set their own fees. Students who get tuition covered by TOPS will not be exempt from the expenses, as TOPS does not cover the increase.
Also new tonight, a shocking scene in New York City. Take a look at this bus rolling backwards down the street. Police say it went like that for 2 blocks before it ultimately crashed into a church. 2 cars were totaled along the way and other vehicles were damaged in the bus's destructive path. The bus driver has been taken off service for now, but it has not been said whether she'll lose her job or not. Police still trying to figure out what led to all this. And then there's this, an unusual fight in Tennessee. For no apparent reason, these bucks just started throwing jabs. The suspenseful match looks like it could be a close call, but the pugnacious deer take their brawl into the woods, so we never really know how it ended.
That's pretty funny.
Nice fighting form, though.
Yeah.
Top buck.
That was the best video. I love that.
All right. Well, Cindy's gone.
Well, we still have issues with Cindy, but Cindy is moving into Arkansas. Max winds 15-20 miles per hour. Here is a look at Cindy in case you haven't seen. Moving to the northeast and there into Arkansas. Still a lot of rain with it. And what I really want you to notice is this band of rain that extends just east of Alexandria into Texas. That's going to be swinging to the east and could cause us some issues as we go into tomorrow. So here's what's happening now. We've got rain over the Chandler Sound down to the mouth of the Mississippi River. A little bit of rain on the south shore. It's not much. The big problem has been the wind. That wind pushing water into the coast, pushing water on the north shore and the Mississippi Gulf Coast. So we still have this coastal flood advisory in effect through 4 o'clock tomorrow because the water's running about 1 to 3 feet above normal. So here we are looking at the south shore of the lake and you're going, gosh, I thought it would be rougher, right? This is from Gail Marie. So on the south shore, the water's not as high. It's being pushed to the north shore. This is probably my favorite twit pick of the day. Not the best way to get around, but what I want you to notice, the waves. That water is being pushed inland, and then notice the moss blowing in the trees as well. Here we are at Waveland. Jennifer Morales sent this in, and there you can see the water being pushed on shore. So when is the wind going to die down? Well, it's beginning to die down out of the south at about 14-15 miles per hour, gusting at times 20-24 miles per hour. As you look at the overnight hours, we're going to still see some wind. Here we are in the morning, not quite as bad as today. We had winds gusting to 39 miles per hour today. Then as you go into the evening hours, that is when the wind is finally going to begin to subside. So you'll get some relief. Now, what about high tides tomorrow? In the morning at Grand Isle, Rigolets in the afternoon, Southwest Pass right there in the morning. Here's the deal at the Chafuncta, high tide at about 4 o'clock or so. So we still got this coastal flood advisory and the small craft advisory with the wind out of the south at 20 to 25 knots. So you're still going to have that water being pushed on shore. But tomorrow night, I do think you're going to begin to see some relief. We can check out the rainfall, and here is a look at your rain chances going into tomorrow. Doesn't look too bad, but wait, as you go later in the day, we get some heating, and that band of rain that we saw to the west swinging up to the northeast, and I think it's going to help pull more rain into our areas, so be aware of that potential. Here is a look at the forecast model with the remnants of Cindy heading on over to Memphis. there's the cold front that's moving to the south. Looks like that cold front is going to be pushing through as we get into late Sunday, early Monday. I've got a 60% chance of rain for your Friday, 50% Saturday, 60% for your Sunday. Don't get too excited. You will have breaks in the rain, just like today. You had some sunshine, but I do think a better chance of getting some rain in the metro area tomorrow. There's the front kind of along the coast. As you go into Sunday, we're going to get a northeast flow. It's going to send in some drier air. It's going to be oh so nice. Right now, 81 degrees. The humidity is very high. It's one of those nights you walk out, you're just wearing that humidity. It truly feels like New Orleans. Temperatures right now upper 70s to the low 80s. I know it's 10 o'clock at night. Low temperatures, if we're really lucky, upper 70s. And then tomorrow, those high temperatures in the upper 80s to near 90 degrees. Here is a look. Notice 3 in the afternoon. I've got low 80s. That's with rain chances. Where you don't have the rain, you're going to be in the upper 80s. Saturday, 50% chance of rain. Sunday, you've got the cold front, 60% chance of rain. And then look at this. In the morning for Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, you're in the upper 60s. North Shore, South Shore, low 70s. It's really going to be nice. I can't wait.
Yeah, looking forward to